The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to The Winemakers. Local experts Sam Couturi, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
I don't know if you're talented enough to do this.
I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is.
That was actually amazing, Sam. Sounded great.
That works really well. People should buy more wine in boxes.
Spread the word.
Not
Welcome to the
a paid
Winemakers,
for
everyone.
advertisement.
No, it's all paid for. Sponsored by Phil Couturi.
I love looking around the table and seeing a bunch of winemakers dispense wine out of a box. It's amazing.
It's a very chic box.
Thank you. You don't have to compliment me just because it's...
That was a band, right? Chic was a band, I think.
Of course.
What? Yes.
Nile Rodgers.
Of course.
Chic Le Freak.
Oh, yeah.
Freak Out was actually a song that originally... Do you know what Freak Out is all about?
This floats around Instagram. They got kicked out of, or not
Studio
let into Studio
54
54 on New Year's Eve.
So the actual song is Fuck Off.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. They went back to their apartment, recorded that song, and then had to change the
lyrics
so they could actually release it on the radio.
Bet you they got into Studio 54 the next New Year's Eve.
Guaranteed.
And sang that song.
Exactly.
So you guys, we got Lyndsay Hoopes with us today. And of course, we want to talk about your wine and your farm and farming and vineyards and all that. But we also kind of want to get into you being under attack over in Napa. So we'll get into all of it. Do you want to introduce yourself and kind of give us a little history of, your family spot and how long you guys been there and what you're up to?
Yeah. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. It's always really fun to make that trip across Old Sonoma Road and go to the other side and confirm that Sonoma actually does care about Napa. No.
I was worried it's the other way around. Right?
Oh, no. Sonoma's just become a lot closer to my heart. I come in so much more often because I live right there on the border now. So it's always fun to come and make friends. So I'll be coming back. But
you're probably closer to downtown Sonoma than downtown Napa at this point, right?
Yeah, I am equidistant. So
okay.
I kind of like getting out. I have 4 kids, so anything to just.
Have you brought them to Traintown yet?
Oh yes, Traintown is very popular.
Yeah,
very popular.
That place is going off,
dude,
right now.
Yes,
it was packed yesterday.
I drive by at 9:30 on my way to work, and it is people parked down the street, and these poor little kids sitting out there wondering how come they can't go in yet.
Parents are tailgating.
It's a true saving grace to have an amusement park that close, and it's so beautiful. Actually, like if you, it's not a gaudy like.
Oh no!
In the middle of
No,
town.
it's
They have
super fun, and you go in there, you ride the train, pet the animals, go to the gift shop, get out. It's and then they nap in the car, and that's great when they're little, And then they have the roller coasters for when they get bigger. But
well, in the Ferris wheel, there's a really great view of the.
Oh
valley.
yeah,
it's actually gorgeous. So.
Yeah, Ferris wheel too. I forgot about that. It's been a while.
Well, as you mentioned, my name is Lyndsay Hoopes. I'm the 2nd generation proprietor of Hoopes Family Vineyard. And we've been living in Napa since the early 1980s. My father would probably tell the story a little bit differently, but he ended up coming up to Napa after leaving the military primarily. And he patented a plastic farming box for hand harvesting grapes. Basically.
Is he the inventor of the FYB?
No, he actually,
you
probably see them everywhere. They were the collapsible plastic containers that had the pallet connected to them.
Totally.
And the idea was, essentially to get rid of single-use pallets, wooden pallets.
Yeah. And he did this in what year?
This was in the early 1980s.
Okay.
That's not actually what brought him up to Napa. Napa was sort of what inspired that iteration of his business. But he came up inspired by farming, and, we kind of came at the turn of, there was still a lot of citrus and prunes and a lot of things other than grape, we should say, MOG, the true MOG, agricultural MOG. And we, my dad sort of asked a bunch of our neighbors, what should we plant? Because grapes were not the obvious trajectory. And he's, people said, well, we think grapes are the big next thing coming up. So we had about 12 acres of land from our neighbor who was a single mother. And she said, this is a lot to take care of. Would you take it over? And my dad, planted our original vineyard, which is actually the grape source for this particular wine. We still produce off of that vineyard. And he got, sort of inadvertently into the wine business. He farmed for a number of people and, essentially made farm equipment. And then he decided when that business sold to a company in Detroit, he really didn't want to follow the business. He wanted to stay in Napa and stay part of the wine industry. But for him, the wine industry was always about farming, which in turn, I, at the time, was probably your typical teenager. I hated farming. I hated how quiet Napa was. There were only 81 people in the town of Yountville. We had a Hells Angels
is
biker
that a
bar.
true statement?
That is a true statement.
For sure.
That is a true statement.
I mean, if you really look at the footprint of Yountville, and you can imagine where the houses were before, everything around it kind of grew up, and downtown was tiny.
Tiny. Yeah, we had, the Veterans Home was the prominent, building always. And we had a Hells Angels biker bar where Bistro Gentil is, Eddie's.
Nice.
We had the Greyhound Bus Depot, which is why the diner popped up, because the diner was sort of the food stop for the Greyhound Bus Depot. And the closest restaurant was actually the Spot Pizza Place up in where Dean and DeLuca is today. Right. So you had to actually get in a car to go to a restaurant. When Piatti came into town, that was revolutionary. And mustards too. Yeah.
What was your dad doing before military? How come he had background in farm equipment, and how come he had kind of a little thing for inventing?
Well, his background was farming. I mean, he grew up in southeastern Arizona, which is a farming community. And
lots of lettuce and stuff down there, right?
Well, a lot of cotton and a lot of Mormons. So
in southeast Arizona.
Yeah. So that's my dad's mom decided to leave. She didn't, my grandfather was a very big fish in a small pond. And so he was satisfied staying there. He sold the jukeboxes and the cigarette machines in the Mormon community.
That's good business.
So we were always a little bit of a Jack Mormon, tied to us. And so
it all makes sense now, all this stuff.
Brian, so we kept running west.
Make sure a Mormon doesn't drink your beer.
No.
You invite a second Mormon.
Exactly. I've dated a Mormon girl in the past. I know what it's like. Yeah.
So my grandmother just decided to take my dad with her to Southern California. And I think, he had to put himself through school. He just had a lot of entrepreneurial get up and go, and decided that the world was his destiny to take or leave. So he went to Carlsbad Army Navy Academy, mainly because he was sort of a pill, I think, to his single mother. And then that straightened him out. And he realized that, if he could get a scholarship to college, and then he could sort of pave his own way. And so he was always entrepreneurial that way. And the military really helped him, travel and pay for a lot of that stuff. And it was a really, I think at the time considered a great job despite Vietnam. So he, actually opened up the ROTC program up at Davis. And that's actually why he ended up in the agricultural community.
Oh.
So he kind of, I think he just tousled with getting to know wine. He was exposed to wine for the first time. It definitely wasn't in the background, but it was something that he got really interested in. And I think like most people, at that time, I don't think he had a vision that California was going to become this amazing place for wine making, and he was himself just getting used to it and familiar with just the wine industry in general. But what I think makes wine interesting to him and so many other people is how many layers. I mean, you can really deep dive into the agricultural side of it. You can deep dive into the food aspect of it. You can deep dive into the, curating lifestyle aspect of it. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do. And I think he was just really excited about how you can do so many different things with the same grapes and how many things impact what you can do, the terroir. And, he was learning about all that at the same time, but real time, because Davis was a really dynamic place, obviously, at that time. They're inventing rootstocks and, really learning about how to put Napa on the map as a wine as an educational institution at Davis, but also, on the map from a winemaking perspective. So he got to see all that. I mean, I tell people some of these stats and it's mind blowing, really. We were one of the first 40 wineries technically in Napa. In the early, in 1990, when the WDO was passed, there were about 200 wineries. And today there are over 500 physical wineries. So we've had over double the growth. But really all of that growth, all 500 more or less, have come to be in the last 40 years within my entire lifetime. You have obviously those historic wineries that were largely rebuilt or paused during Prohibition, and they didn't really kickstart until, again, in the 70s. So it's not that people weren't making wine or didn't have garagistas, but, when we think of wine country, all of that happened on his watch. And so, and in my lifetime, which is pretty interesting to watch.
We had a guest bring up once the fact that Napa used to be, they wanted people to come to the wineries, but they wanted them to leave when they were done. And that goes to the point of like no restaurants and no resorts, no places to stay for all those years. So it all ties in, doesn't it?
Well, certainly my dad has a slightly different memory. I mean, he used to come over to wine country to Napa because it was free booze. So he called it the filling station because they couldn't charge for tastings back then. So that was really how, frankly, he got his exposure to wine. Today it's a big financial commitment to really learn about wine especially if you're not from here. But for him, he was able to really get excited about wine because he would go to all of these wineries and, he wasn't just looking for a free handout, although potentially was.
Right. Didn't hurt. Yeah. It's interesting. It sounds like he was in Davis around the same time that all of the sort of first class of prominent winemakers started to come out of there. Exciting time in wine in Northern California in general.
Yeah. I don't think anyone really, just from the stories that I hear, I don't think anyone really knew where Napa was going to go, but there was a lot of excitement. I always like to think of it as, Napa was really the Wild West of wine. On the one hand, as we all know, it had the perfect climate. We were next door to an educational facility or university that was enabling a lot of students to get an education in first class wine. But, the reality is that we were also open to innovation. We didn't have the rules that they had in so many different regions, and people were excited about the kind of literally the Wild West. I talked to Genevieve Johnsons from Mondavi all the time and asked why she came out to California. And we've sat on a number of panels for the Oakville Wine Growers Association. And she was like, because in 1975, no one would hire a woman. So when I applied to Bob Mondavi, he was like, why wouldn't I hire you? You have the same education as all your father and all your brothers. And she came from a very multi-generational storied winemaking history, but couldn't get a job to save her life. And so we were that open, friendly, I think accessible wine region that we can do it really well, but we are not exclusionary. And that has shifted a lot, obviously, in Napa. And I think that, unfortunately, just like many other places, to Napa's detriment. I think that you have to be constantly pushing the bubble to stay relevant. You have to constantly be talking to consumers where they would like to be spoken to and with. And if we don't sort of reformulate the way that, people need to come to us and we're on the ivory castle, we are going to become irrelevant because there are a lot of other places that make great wine. And it's not just about that. It was about culture. It was about these, entrepreneurs, these spirited sort of inventors that were like, let's do it. Let's go crazy. Let's get wild. You need that in a commercial economy to stay exciting, I think.
Yeah.
What if they went back to doing free tastings in Napa in general?
Maybe just for like a weekend.
Holy
like a
shit,
restaurant
that
week?
would be a nightmare. Yeah.
I personally, I think like the concern about free things is a little bit overstated. I think you could do, I think that you can make wine in certain segments free for the benefit of exposing people and like getting them excited. Because right now, especially for Napa, if you're saying that you have to throw down a very substantial financial commitment to engage, there are a lot of people who are like, I don't know if I like wine enough to make that investment. And so unless you have some other reason that you're going, a friend pulls you along or something like that, you know, it's a good way, I think, to introduce people. And, you know, I feel like when I was in college, I went to college on the East Coast. You know, I came in with, I drink wine because I'm from California, but a lot of my college friends were like, you know, wine, fancy, you know, red, white, or blue, you know, it's like, oh. And I think, you know, just having that opportunity to try good wine, once you go there, it's really hard to come back. Yeah. We all know that. So get them hooked.
When did you start getting excited about wine? I mean, you talked a little bit about when you were a teenager and you were just kind of not agreeing with anything your parents were doing, but when did it start to get exciting for you?
Well, I think, you know, I was certainly caught up in once I got to college with the idea that Napa really was, you know, I don't want to say turning the corner. I mean, they were on this trajectory, but they really started getting rewarded and recognized as an incredibly amazing luxury destination. And everyone in the world, even if they didn't know anything about wine, knew about Napa. And so that was a little bit, you know, I mean, to be part of that story and to kind of be able to tell people that you were from there and see people's responses was, you know, exhilarating in a lot of ways. Yeah. And so I, of course, you know, tormented my parents, I'm sure, but I, at the time, didn't understand. It was kind of a lonely childhood. It was farming community. There wasn't a lot of infrastructure. There weren't a lot of restaurants. There weren't museums. Like, think about all the things that, you know,
were you an only child?
I was an only child. I had a lot of animal friends. I was that girl who would like walk up and down the street and come home with my mother's, you know, least favorite batch of like, oh, look, new kittens in a basket. So I, you know, I mean, and I personally am not beat up about being an only child, but of course, you know, we didn't live near the school. I was 2-3 miles away from the closest next thing. We didn't have a vibrant downtown in Yountville. So, you know, I mean, to me, I was like, why would you come back? Like, let's go to the big city.
Sounds like my son.
Well, and don't we all need to get away from, I'm so glad I did, but I think we all need to get away. So, and at that time, my dad was still, you know, in farming and farm equipment. And I felt like, why is everybody else getting the glory? Like, we're, you know, the backs are broken on this entire faceless population, which frankly, I think is probably largely too. I mean, the economy wouldn't work without a lot of the faceless farmers, frankly,
yes.
And, you know, immigrants and a number of other people that make the industry work, food and wine. And so I felt like, you know, at that time, my dad was part of that community. And I think that's shifted a little bit. We all need to do a better job, myself included, of making sure people realize that in every glass of wine, there are hundreds of people who made that happen, and a lot of them don't get recognized. So I don't know, when my dad started like having his name on a bottle, that felt a little bit, you know, isn't it what makes every oil and tech tycoon come to the valley? I was like, oh, that sounds cool. So I was no better. And I rushed home and said, well, my dad's job got a lot sexier. I'd love to be part of building the family business.
So what was that first vintage?
In 1999.
Okay.
So he was approached by a number of winemakers that wanted to use his name as a single vineyard designate. And at that point in time, we had the only vineyard that survived the phylloxera outbreak in the full original contiguous form. My dad would tell you it was because he was very smart and selected St. George. I think it was just cheaper, and he hadn't like planned through to adopt like the new rootstock. So,
and if you don't mind, could you establish where the vineyard is, like
sure.
Fairly specifically?
Yeah. So we were located off of Yount Mill Road. We bought an old farmhouse in 1981 that used to belong to George C. Yount. It was like a big homestead back in the day.
Cool.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful, cool sort of historic building in Yountville. And my father planted out that vineyard, which now basically from the back window you can see what is today Cardinal. But none of it existed.
Right.
I mean, you had there were no vines basically between our house and, you know, I don't know, at least like mid Oakville.
Right. Some orchards and some oak trees. And
now it's all vines. But at the time, you know, it was just sort of a lot of unplanted land. So
cool.
We were, And
do you remember the people that approached him? Do you remember any of the names of the people that approached him about doing a vineyard designate?
You know, what ended up happening, how we originally produced our first bottle of wine, is that Mitch Cosentino owned the property right there on Highway 29. Mm-hmm. And he was willing to let my dad use his facility because we could truck it right over there in exchange I know that they became buddies and sort of, Wild West producers at that time. I don't know which wineries, larger wineries, wanted to use his name, but we did grow for quite a few. I mean, Oakville has always had, a very strong reputation for Cabernet, and it's not very big, as you know. So we were growing grapes for a number of the cult wine producers, was sort of the name at the time. And we were, then we transitioned producing out of Napa Wine Company, which, is it was like the first co-op
well, and that's where all those cult air quotes wineries came. That was the hotbed for it.
Yes, and so that's where we, after we did this sort of transitional year, ended up producing out of there for many, many, many years, and mainly because my father didn't want to pull out our vineyard to put in a production facility, and we thought that was inefficient. And for small producers, even today, that is basically the decision that they have to make, in addition to figuring out how, in God's name, they're going to be able to afford to put in a winery on their property. So at the time, it was still this trade-off of, why am I going to pull out my most valuable asset, my grapes, to put in a building that I don't necessarily need, because 3 miles down the road is a shared facility with a lot of these great producers. Yeah,
and nobody can seem to just build a barn that you make wine in anymore. They all kind of look the same. Yeah. They're all kind of set up the same. And so, yeah.
Well, that's actually, that's Napa County's doing.
Yeah.
So I would say that there are quite a few small producers that would love to just build a barn, put out a picnic table, and have people come and see the softer side, the smaller side of things. And Napa, up and until I don't even really know that they'd allow anything to go through, has made it so complicated to build a winery that what ends up happening is you just continue to choose up where, okay, well, if I'm going to have to spend $2 million, I might as well put in enough infrastructure to be able to grow with the business. And that's the unfortunate barrier to entry. There is no small business equivalent of wine anymore. You cannot start out as somebody who's working the vineyard to then owning a vineyard to then owning a winery. That dream is gone.
Not here.
Not here.
Yeah.
I think you could bring it back, but you have to the community has to want that to be the case. And I think that there's a tension between, the status quo. We want a monopoly. We want to create barriers to entry because that gives us these sort of preferential rights to, when people come to visit, they come to us, and they're not being diversified into small wineries.
Right.
Yeah.
Is your dad making the wine the whole time you guys are making wine?
My dad made the wine for a long time, and but he was more of a garagista because he had never trained or worked as a cellar rat. And so he worked alongside one of Heidi Barrett's proteges over the years, a gentleman named Jason Fisher, who passed away many, many years ago. But that was sort of the first co-winemaker. And then we transitioned to Ann Vaughter. When I took over the wine business, Ann Vaughter and I were around the same age. We both were ready to kind of take over the brand. And I felt a lot of synergy with her because she felt very strongly about Oakville. She felt very strongly about narrative-based, wines, telling the story of Oakville and multi-generational farming families. Her family wasn't in the wine business, but they were farmers up in Washington State. And, she had worked at Paradigm, which was a neighbor of ours for many years, and she was looking for her own thing.
Anyone?
So,
shout out to Greg, the brother.
Yeah.
The alter ego that we just lost. Shout out to our friends at Paradigm.
Yeah. And I mean, so on Yacht Mill Road, the Palissa family, and I mean, those are all my neighbors. So Andrew Hoxie's family and the Harrises, and those are all my neighbors. So I grew up with them. And so and that road is actually still very much what it was when I was growing up. There is farm worker housing. A lot of families actually live there who operate the vineyards. It's kind of a true last, I don't know, reminiscent of Napa's 80s nostalgia.
And then up to current day, is Aaron Pott currently making wines for you guys?
Yes. So kind of a crazy transitional story. I'm so proud and honored to work with Aaron, but I have to say that we connected fortuitously, but also unexpectedly, because Anne was she was circumventing the globe on a boat.
Is she still sailing around the world?
She is.
Okay.
Well, actually, she's no longer sailing. She's in New Zealand, and she stayed.
Okay.
Because during COVID, she actually got stuck in New Zealand and couldn't come back, and no one knew how long COVID would last, of course. So she came, we hoped and expected that she would be able to come back, and that just never happened. And New Zealand had stricter regulations, if we recall, than many.
Yes.
And she basically couldn't go on land in New Zealand or get back to the States. So she was stuck on a boat, like in this sort of harbor.
With her family, right?
With her family, her whole family. So eventually, she ended up coming back. But as we got closer to harvest that year, I was like, I feel like, I don't know how long this is going to last. So at first I approached Heidi and her daughter, because I thought it might be a neat story to, have mother-daughter, father-daughter, and we were thinking of just something that would be like a fun one vintage. Yep. But then again, it felt like this was going to be a longer story. And so luckily enough, we were very able to find Aaron Pott willing and able to come on board. And I think that frankly, one of the big inspirations for him is that he didn't have necessarily a lot of clients that were the local, multi-generational Napa families. And he was very passionate about that story too. He has 2 daughters that he raised here in Napa, and there was synergy there in terms of our philosophy there too.
Cool. Should we pour one of the wines that you got? And we can kind of talk about that, and then we'll get into some.
Then we'll start to. There was a little bit of hands throwing, a little.
Right.
Yeah. Let's get into.
We dipped our toe in, but. Yeah. All right, what's Danielle pouring right now? Because you guys don't just make cab, but estate fruit is primarily cab.
Well, so this is actually off of that Yacht Mill Road, Oakville Vineyard that I was telling you about. And this is actually one of the last vintages before we replanted it. We replanted it in 2021. But at this point in time, it was 40 years old. And I guess what is so interesting to me about this wine is it was the first wine or first vineyard that my father planted. But to me, it is so quintessentially Oakville because it has a lot of that tobacco and nutmeg and really true sort of red cassis.
Beautiful.
And, when I think of an Oakville wine, I always tell people this is your quintessential sort of what people talk about when they are talking about the actual AVA of Oakville. Yeah. And I can smell this wine from across the room.
I know.
To me, this is like grandma's cookies. It's like that smell that's seared in my brain. Yeah. It's a very unique.
Delicious.
Yeah.
So Dante's block,
Classic.
I always joke. So Dante was my father's favorite child, and he's the dog on the label. So he got the dog. So he got the label. I got the job eventually. And he is forever enshrined as our gold mascot. But this is a reserve of the vineyard because every year where we think that there is an appropriate year worthy of an homage to Dante, it's not always the same block, actually. We make a special reserve in Dante's honor.
What kind of dog was Dante?
He was a Jack Russell Terrier.
Brian, you did that in your outside voice.
Sorry. Jack Russell terrorist.
I don't disagree.
Don't listen to that part,
he
Jasmine.
got the front seat, I got the back street. I totally get it.
Yeah.
And he was a very good, his sister was a great ratter. Like she had farm function and Dante was just sort of
passenger princess.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of shown on the label as a big dog, and he probably wasn't really a big dog, I guess.
He was big in spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
It looks like golden retriever or something jumping through that hoop, but no. It's Jack Russell.
It's nice to have some land, I think, with a dog like that, where you can just let him run. Burn off a little energy.
For sure. And he liked to harass the turkeys. And we're like in the country. So
Dante earned his keep chasing the turkeys.
No, Muffin earned her keep. He was the hanger-on. like most good sisters, It's like, come on, bro.
Because what kind of animals and how many animals do you have currently on the? I mean, you guys, is it called the Oasis or the farm? What do you guys call it?
Yeah. So we, fast forward. So I ended up leaving and not coming back into the business because when I tried to get the job after realizing my dad's job was now sexy, not farming, but wine, I came back and my dad wouldn't hire me. He was like, why would I hire you? You have no work experience and you have poo-pooed farming your whole life. And really our job just got more complicated, but you cannot make good wine if you do not grow good grapes. And so farming is always going to be your most important job and you need to go figure that out. So I worked for a very large winery, and my dad's vision or recommendation for that was you also need to understand where our place is in this world. It's very small. Napa's very small. Our winery's really, really small. We matter to no one. And so you need to understand, like, what does that mean in terms of our wine? And now that the world is so globalized in terms of wine, and I remember the days where it's like you had to go to Italy to like get the wine back, right? So nowadays you can press the button and get everything coming, and it's just really different. But, our wine, just the vision that our wine could be anywhere outside of our backyard was hard to imagine. So anyway, I ended up trying to get the job for many years, and my father wouldn't hire me. So I became a district attorney in San Francisco and swore never to come back. And that just didn't happen.
Really?
Yeah.
A district attorney in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah. I see a lot more similarities, especially now that I feel like a resistance fighter.
No, that's what I mean. I mean, it's like now this is going to get really interesting.
Right.
Yeah. So
you're not just the daughter of a farmer.
No, I was the stowaway, I guess, or something. Whatever you want to call me, the runaway.
Prodigal daughter. Yeah.
So I went to San Francisco never to return, and I was hired by, at the time, little known district attorney named Kamala Harris, who, was really very specifically motivated in, towards a lot of very innovative policies with respect to criminal justice, but she was trying to diversify the office and bring in people who were very passionate about her gig and the job. So I was there, loved my job, loved so much about being in San Francisco and having that really large responsibility of, championing justice and making sure that we were always doing the right thing. So I believe very strongly in government, but that, government also has a bigger responsibility than most to be to follow the law and to identify the public interest and only act in that benefit. So
any cases we know about that you were working on?
Yeah, I'm sure. Let's see. I prosecuted San Francisco Sheriff Ross Mercarimi. I prosecuted a lot of the narcotics cases, I should say dismissed, that the medical examiner at the time, Debbie Madden, was used a lot of our evidence for personal consumption in our cocaine cases. And so I was sort of doing a lot of the triage for the crime lab scandal, I should say. We disbanded the narcotics unit. And so I worked in sort of, let's say, the cleanup and triage, and then also identifying a policy going forward of how we handled police officer misconduct.
Don't get high off your own supply.
Yeah. Well, arguably, here was my argument that I never actually advanced because I didn't really believe it was ethical. But I figured if she was using it and she was an expert, it was good. So we knew it was like drugs. And so there wasn't really a concern that this would exonerate anyone. In fact, like, she had a big selection and she chose his.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
So,
I mean, talk about time and place. Wow.
Yeah. So that was fun. It was a big mess, but you realize that every office has, interesting challenges and you just work through them. And we had a very motivated crew that was willing to do the right thing, which meant dismissing all the cases because that was the right thing to do. Yeah. So,
did you see anything in Kamala where you said, hey, you think she's going to
be president one day?
Yeah.
I didn't see anything that would not have suggested that. I guess I really have always believed, and I unfortunately feel like it's still true, that I'm not sure in my lifetime we'll see a female president. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I remember, they used to sort of, the query when I was younger was like, do you think a woman or a black male will be president first? And I was always like, I think more people are sexist than they are racist, because sexism runs across all races.
Yes.
And so you have to remember that, and I am not saying that I've ever walked a day in anybody's shoes, and so I'm not saying that it's worse or it's not, but I just think that sexism is a lot more pervasive than we realize. And, I get little girled all the time. I mean, I walk into court and people are like, oh, that's so cute, and I feel like I'm just constantly trying to prove myself. And with that comes a lot of, I don't know. I just think that Kamala couldn't win. Yeah. And she couldn't win when she was in office in San Francisco. She did a lot of great things. She couldn't win when she was running for president. Right. I think she was a little bit too much other for a lot of, for being maybe the first female president, but I'm just not sure that we're going to see that. I feel empowered to change things. I teach law, and right now the legal community in my classes, it's about 60 to 70% female. Mm-hmm. And when I first went back to teaching, my first semester I was teaching at night, and I had 6 women who had just had children or were pregnant in law school, which is not a demographic that I had when I was in law school. And I felt empowered that women felt like, I couldn't imagine going back to law school pregnant or, now, but I felt great that more and more women are doing it, and more women felt empowered to be able to do it while they were also, pursuing being mothers and doing all the things that come with that. But I advise them pretty closely that I'm not going to make accommodations for you because you're women and because you're pregnant, because the law doesn't. And when you walk into that first job, they're not going to. So I want to train you basically for what you're going to walk into, knowing that I am your biggest advocate and will help you change any law, and you're getting the education that you need to be able to change that. And so I hope that everybody in this room knows that this will empower you to at least do something about it. And so that's how I feel that, we have to be realistic about what it is. But, it might change. But I know that was a long-winded answer to.
That was awesome.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
I felt very hopeful for the first time in many days. So that was great.
Well, that's, it is so amazing to me, because people really have gotten out of touch with civics, and people are totally out of touch with what our elected officials are supposed to do and not do. And, let's face it, at the national level, that's not helping. But what I can say is, in these smaller communities, our voice actually matters and should matter, and we should take advantage of that so much more. When you look at Napa, the population, the actual population of Yountville all the way up to Calistoga is 13,000 people. Mm. You know what that means? 50% of them don't vote, maybe more, because who knows? They just don't vote. We have terrible voting records in the United States. And that means that every vote matters. People win by 300 votes.
Yeah.
2 votes, maybe. Yeah. It's really crazy. And, our elected officials work for us. So if they're going down these paths that we think are destructive or unproductive, we pay their salaries. Now, they only care if they're going to lose their job. But just like we would hold any employee accountable, we have to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
And we don't do that enough. And we don't take ownership, I think, of where our communities are going. And if I've learned anything, I am sorry that I have a scarlet letter, because it's inconvenient for my family and my business. They decided to sue me. But what I can say that I've learned is that people need to speak up, or the problem just gets worse.
Okay, so
did Napa County have any idea who they were picking on when they started?
Right, that's exactly.
That was a mistake.
So because we really want to give you the forum to do this, can you start from the beginning and how this happened? Because I think a lot of our listeners won't be that familiar with it.
Wine Business Daily's email,
well, those probably aren't even accurate either. I'll try to avoid all the legalese. The short answer is, let's speak in uncontested facts. So we are a winery. When I came back to the wine business, I decided that our wine brand would not survive if we relied on distributors, export. We were a small winery. My dad did not want to pull out the vines, as we discussed. And so we needed a home. We had a very legitimate, authentic connection to our vineyards, but we needed a home where people could come to us on our doorstep and taste and buy our wine. That was the only way that our small brand was going to survive. I think everyone here sitting at that table knows that for small brands, that is still true.
Yeah.
If not more so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing has changed. It's gotten worse, really. I mean, there's more competition everywhere and fewer distributors and you name it. And so that's become more and more true. And so I decided that we needed to build a facility. But my dad, again, was like, well, how are we going to survive building a whole new winery, tearing out our grapes? Like, for what? We don't need a big facility, but they won't let us invite people to the winery if we just have a picnic table. So I said, well, why don't we buy a property that's already entitled as a winery? And I figured I was probably not going to easily find one for sale. I didn't know how hard it was going to be. I got outbid by you name it on probably 37 properties.
Wow.
Because my vision of what the wine industry was back in the 1980s was completely different than what it had become in terms of the property values, and the value of a winery was also this aspirational value of funny money, right? Like, I don't care if it makes money. I don't care if it doesn't pencil out. I want my name on a bottle, damn it. And so, those of us farmers who were competing in that, I was like, I can't, what do you mean $11 million out of cash? Oh, that's cute.
Right.
I don't think so. And who's ever going to return on that? How big is the place? And it's falling down. Okay, no. And so you realize that over the years, like, that dream of, again, sort of building a little to then build bigger was really out of reach. And I started to get pretty sad that over 7 years of looking, we were never going to be able to find something that we could build. And my dad just did not want to pull out the vineyard. So all of a sudden, my father's friend is drinking in a bar in Bolinas, and there's an older gentleman.
Smiley's?
I don't know.
Okay.
Actually, I should have
the only one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's probably true. And he was sitting at the bar. He was an older 80-year-old German gentleman, and he says, I'm selling a wine in Yachtville, and do you know anyone interested? And my dad's friend was like, I think I do. So he calls me. I'm 9 months pregnant. And I was like, hey, Randy, how drunk were you guys? Can I get back to you tomorrow? So I'm like, really? This probably is too good to be true. I call the guy. The number's wrong. And I go, it is too good to be true. And then I just keep playing around with the number. I was like, maybe he transposed a number. I finally got through, and I meet up with the guy. And he says, I don't want to sell my winery to the large corporate masses. I really want to give this to a small family business. And my kids don't want it. My son is in the shipping business. My daughter's a pediatric cardiologist. Fast forward, she worked with both of my kids completely randomly.
Wow.
And I really want Napa to stay in families. And, while I'm alive, I can make sure that happens. So I ran to the Small Business Administration, and I said, I need to buy a winery. And they said, what winery do you think you can afford with a 7A small business loan? The max, by the way, is $5 million. And I said, I don't know. So I went back to him and I said, I'll give you 4.
Can you say what winery it is?
It was Hopper Creek.
It was Hopper Creek. Oh, okay.
And I said, I'll give you 4. And, and some change. And then we'll use the rest to redo it and pay the whoosh, as my dad likes to call it. Pay the lawyers and everybody else. It's like, it's just, you think you have all this money, and then it's like, It's like the wine business is kind of all over. Whoosh.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Maybe that's a new label.
The whoosh. What could we spend all this money on?
I know. Whoosh. If I hadn't whooshed this city all these years, I would have so much money. So he said, okay, well, you know what? I just am going to leave it exactly as it is. If you close in 30 days, it's yours.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. Is when someone sells something like that, do they have to entertain other offers, or
No.
They can just sell directly to you? Okay.
Yeah. And it wasn't even on the market. And And so I said 30 days. So I go back to the SBA and they were like, what government loan do you know closes in 30 days? And I was like, this one. I'm going into labor today, but I got my laptop. Oh my God. And my husband was like, you are officially insane. So I did all the closing paperwork while I was in labor at the St. Helena Hospital with my son. In 2017, we got it closed. 45 days, not 30.
Wow.
But
Close
he hung
enough,
in there with
man.
us. Yeah, I was pretty impressed. So I felt like I had just birthed a child. I had just purchased a winery. It was a major, major month, and we were so excited.
Big year.
And, it was a big month.
And what did the winery consist of? Because I think that's important to what you're envisioned, like what it was and to what you wanted. And
well, the winery took a lot of vision because it was, it looked kind of like a German beer hall. I like to call it the Ponchas, if anybody's familiar, the Ponchas of wine. And, they had this guy, very passionate guy, Dan, who, smoked cigarettes and drank beer while he poured tastings, and they were inside the facility. And I mean, it was like literally the place where everyone was like, I've been there. Like there were, dollars on the ceiling and Polaroid pictures on the wall. And it was a local place. Locals and visitors alike loved it because it was just truly authentically accessible. And that wasn't necessarily my vision. My vision was a little bit more like I wanted people to remember the small kind of very agricultural family businesses that I grew up around. So, seeing kids kind of running in the fields and hanging out with animals, like that was my childhood vision. But I really respect Dieter for keeping it real. I
mean, my question was really also to the permits and the expectations.
Nah, but I like those dollar bills on the ceiling.
No. That's what I wanted to hear, and then how that had to transform to what the demands were.
Well, he,
so to speak,
he lived there. Somebody lived there because there was a big apartment on the top, and where this gets really interesting is, all wineries before 1990, more or less, got permitted to be a winery.
Right.
And that was it.
Right.
The pieces of paper, if you look at, I've looked at many now, but Smith Madrone basically says, like, I'm applying to be a winery. I intend to do winery things. Let me be a winery.
Right.
And that was sort of it. Today, they are dissertations on government micromanagement.
Right.
No more than 3 fingers on each employee. And, I've never seen anything like it. And importantly, they don't do it to any other business, which is a huge constitutional violation. What is the justification to tell a business owner in wine how many employees they need?
Yeah.
Or how many people need to drink their wine in order for them to stay in business?
Exactly.
I cannot as a government lawyer for my whole career, I cannot, for the sake of me, figure out why you would tell a business owner how they need to run their business. I appreciate if it's nuclear hazardous materials.
Unsafe, right.
Surely you should be able to tell them, like, please lock it up. Don't let children touch it. But, to tell a business owner, like, you can only sell here and touch your nose on Monday and then go to the bathroom Friday. And by the way, no more than 20 people, seancing. I mean, it's just, I have no concept of what purpose that serves other than to stifle innovation. It's like the quintessential go to the newspapers and tell them, you'll always be okay. There's no such thing as the internet. It's like, that's just not true. So, people have to innovate. They have to have some flexibility and whatever. So the long story, I guess, short for your question is that it was a winery. And it turns out that there were small winery exemptions, which, by the way, obviously Napa has a slightly different interpretation of this than I do. I don't actually think theirs is credible, but it, back then, the legislative history shows that they started putting in the use permit requirement. Before 1973, you did not need a use permit to have a winery. You could just build one. After 1973, they said, okay, we need to slow development down. You have to come in and get a conditional use permit. They were pretty meager. It was like Stu's, I want to have a winery. You went in for public committee hearing. And then around 1976, they said, whoa, the volume of people coming in is extraordinary. We need to streamline this process for very small wineries. We are going to create a small winery use permit exemption for any winery below, and they set forward criteria. And we're going to create a ministerial permit. That means just like a roof permit or a driver's license, if you check these 6 boxes, you get it.
Pay your fee.
And you actually have a right to sue the government for not giving it to you if you meet that criteria, because there is no discretion with giving out a ministerial permit. And so small winery exemptions were created because they basically said there is no environmental impact of wineries below 30,000. Well, today it's 30,000. Then it was 20,000. And it remains a CEQA exemption, which means that Napa still continues to apply to the state and declare that a winery under 30,000 gallons has no environmental impact. That's what a CEQA declaration is. So at the time, these properties were use permit exempt and CEQA exempt, and they could just build. And they did. And Harlan is one, and Bond is one, and many other wineries are one. And Bond and Harlan see and have tastings, and the county knows it. I've pointed it out a million times. And there are many others. And basically, the county has decided that small winery exemptions are this deformed, mutated version of a winery. It's sort of a winery, but not really a winery. And so it's not authorized to have accessory uses of a winery. So you can make wine. You can sell unlimited wine to unlimited customers. But the customers can't touch wine. They can drink water on your property, but they cannot drink wine. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you buy a winery if you were the only one that could drink the wine? Why would you buy a winery or ever start a winery if you couldn't hire somebody to come make your wine or hire people to help you? Because as any business grows, I mean, I don't know, you might not be able to drink wine anymore. You might, be pregnant and need to have somebody else taste. I mean, I can think of 1.5 million reasons why you would never buy a business if you were the only one legally allowed to do any of the things. That just doesn't make any sense.
But how does this happen? You go ahead and you buy the winery, and then your vision is to do tastings. So do you start doing tastings, and then all of a sudden you start getting things in the mail, or does someone show up there?
No, my vision is, I know what Dieter's been doing because I've lived down the street.
Yeah.
And everybody knows Ponchos. Everybody knows Hopper Creek. So, in fact, my friends used to take ATVs across the land when they were developing it. The original owners, like Nord, Modier, and Coleman, and they used to have these little passes that we could just wave at property owners to be like, we're one of the locals. Like, we're allowed to go across your property. So, I mean, it's been there for a long time. I have too. So we start going through the, we upgraded our property. So the county was like, oh, well, now if you want to make it look nice, you need to basically put a new foundation in, put new bathrooms in. So we put 3 ADA accessible bathrooms. If you're not open to the public, you don't need ADA bathrooms. Why would they have us put them in if they didn't think we could have members of the public? And why 3? That's shocking to me.
And the whole
we
thing.
had parking spots, handicap spots. We had to put in a whole new retaining wall. And we, over the course of 3 years, 3 long years, we remodeled the property, subjected ourselves to close to 65 inspections. They looked at the septic. They looked at the well. They made us put in those bathrooms. We had new HVAC, everything to bring everything up to code. And during this process, they were like, you can have unlimited retail sales, but you can't have tastings. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Okay.
So they want you to have a piece of property where you're making wine, selling retail, but people can't actually sit down and taste wine.
I guess.
Right.
But they also say they don't want that because they don't want retail stores in the ag preserve, because then I'm a bottle shop.
Right.
So
when they say this, what is your response?
I go down to the director.
Yeah.
At the time, David Morrison, and I remember this
is like
very well.
Director of the planning department or something.
Director of the planning department, and I remember this very well because I actually even remember what I was wearing. I should have worn it today for nostalgia. So I was pregnant. It was June, and I remember
such a
very
great
well.
attitude.
Do I? And I was like, can you tell me what this paper says? Because it says retail sales, no public tours. I don't get it. And he says, so Napa just takes into concern that you charge for flights of wine. So if you don't charge for flights of wine, if you give them for free, then it's not a tasting. Okay. Mind you, this whole time I actually have read the code. There is no definition of tours. There is no definition of tastings. There is no definition of marketing. There is no definition of small winery exemption. There is a definition of small winery, but there are actually 3. They're all different. I was like, ooh, somebody has to seriously rewrite this. There's also a winery database that talks about what your entitlements are. The 2012 through 2015 say we're allowed tastings by appointment. 2016 says we're not. And they disappeared. No one knows how. I've asked many times. Nobody can explain
what do you
happened.
think happened?
What do I think happened?
Yeah. Why would something like that be on the books and then all of a sudden 1 year be gone? I mean, I have an idea of what I think, but what do you think?
Well, what do you think?
I mean, I think there's...
What does it sound like to you?
I think there's a lot of money involved and people are sort of swaying a little influence.
I think the county only makes money every time you go into the permit department to request a new permit.
So they keep changing it, so you have to keep coming in.
I think that the people who own a certain few wineries would like to maintain the status quo.
Right.
Because they have an incredibly disproportionate control and recognized control over the most lucrative vehicle of revenue. So those people in power over a shared interest with the only other people of power in an industry that's one myopic industry means power corrupts absolutely.
So do they have any suggestions for you? When you start fighting back, do they say, well, if you want to do this, here's what you can do?
Well, so I get here's what you can do, which is you can pour wine for free, or people can buy wine and consume it on the property.
Okay. And first of all, what is your response if you say you can do free tastings?
Oh, I said, okay. Because
when you want to
that sounds stupid, but I'd like to open.
Yeah.
And I don't see it anywhere.
Yeah.
And I can work with this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, fine. We have to also add in the layer of when we apply for our O2 license. So Napa, it's kind of like an airport.
Just for, if you don't know, like winery license, an O2 license is your classic producer with a place to sell the wine license.
It's an operator
permit. It's an operating permit, right?
Right? So you have a bar permit, you have a retail store permit, and then there's a winery permit. And it's actually, it's a 02 actually, but yeah, we call them O2s. And the winery, so just like an airport, the county can say an airport can operate here, but the county doesn't operate the airport and the county doesn't regulate an airport. An airport is regulated by the FAA, a federal agency. Alcohol is very much the same in the state of California. they can say where a bar can be, but Sonoma, Napa doesn't license a bar. They license the business, but the ABC licenses the bar. Right. And the ABC says you can be a wine bar or beer wine bar or beer wine spirit, and there are only 15 that can exist in Sonoma or in Napa. They control all of that. They say what a pour is, what a tasting is, what other wines you can sell or not sell, what you can make, not spirits, but yes, brandy. So, I mean, the ABC, it is, for those legal nerds out there, it's Section 22 of Article 20 of the California Constitution, creates plenary authority in the California ABC for the regulation of the sale, import, distribution, and transportation of alcohol. So, fast forward, whenever you have a winery, you send in documentation to the ABC and say, we are now going to open our winery. And Napa receives that paperwork, and it says, are they allowed to operate a winery? Napa County has to check. It's a checkbox, actually, so it's pretty straightforward. Yes or no. They check yes. They say, do they need a use permit? Yes. Do they have a use permit? Yes. And they have since 1987. Check. So we get this doesn't go to us. It goes directly to the ABC. The ABC gets that document. The ABC sends us our license. In 2021, we apply for the extension, the outdoor permit, and they again send paperwork to Napa County saying they are looking to expand their premises to host customers outside.
As opposed to inside where you were just doing it before?
Well, yeah. I mean, you have to have, the ABC tells you exactly where it can happen. So they have to come if you want to, move, if you want to add a chair.
Right.
You have to, the ABC comes out and they say like, no, not that chair, or it's too close to a school, or
and it has to be written on a map, a property map,
a little like line drawn around.
And it goes to public. If people contest it, the county can contest it, neighbors can contest it. So you have to do the posting. So you post it up, on the highway for 30 days, and you post it. So we posted. ABC came out, went up for public comment. There was none. The county didn't object. They said go forward, and we were able to get our outdoor picnic permit, which. It's not for me hanging out, drinking my castle of wine. It's for the public because it's a public consumption permit.
Well, it's nice out in Napa.
It is
most
nice.
of the time. It's kind of nice to drink outside.
Exactly. Yeah. For
and look
the public.
At the beautiful property.
So in 2009, the state basically created a law that said that, even if wineries are allowed to have outdoor picnic areas and they can consume their retail purchases. In other words, like you don't have to have somebody pouring for them. They can come buy a bottle of wine and take it out and pour it themselves and drink it like any other retail purchase of food, you name it, as long as they're on your premise. You have to designate where that can take place. Yeah. The ABC can come and investigate it all they want. But they're the agency. So we apply for that. Napa says, go forth and prosper. And then all of a sudden, actually, even before they agreed to that permit, license. And again, they don't license wineries. They cannot issue a business license for an alcohol establishment. Period. So you can't operate until the ABC comes and gives you the blessing. And Napa cannot influence any of it. Right. So I get a notice of apparent violation that I have string lights, that I'm not allowed to have a recreational vehicle, an Airstream, on my property, and that we are in violation of the code, in parentheses, marketing, tours, and or tastings. And of course, my legal brain is like, what the heck is marketing? Marketing is illegal? Like talking? Labels? I don't get it.
Do you think
Tours
someone
and or tastings? What's a tour?
Do you think someone from the county came and saw what you did and said, "Oh, we can't have that"? Do you think a neighbor said, "Ooh, I don't like that"?
Well, I know none of the above.
Okay.
Because unless the county lied in discovery, which is always possible, nobody ever came to my property.
Right.
They looked online.
That's what I was wondering.
They looked at your pictures on your
They looked
website.
They looked at social media pictures online, which...
Was it a nice Airstream? I mean, I'm thinking maybe was it kind of beat up and they were like, what the hell are we doing?
I mean, it is Napa Valley after all.
I know.
Right. Yeah.
No, I think that was a big part of it.
Yeah.
We are Napa. God damn it. We don't take RVs.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't like children. I mean, that has been a very weird cultural undercurrent of this, that no. We want to exclude the people you're trying to attract.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the families?
Right.
The mothers?
Yeah.
The working mothers?
Right. The next generation of
The
wine
next generation of wine drinkers?
Yeah.
I mean, where I sit today, I cannot think of a bigger harm to the economy than doing the exact same thing that we've always done, targeted at baby boomers and nothing else. I have heard from so many people that Napa's what my dad drank. Napa's too expensive, too inaccessible. And my vision is, I know that there are a lot of wine drinkers out there. I think they define luxury differently. I'm not a big social media. I don't wear a wide brimmed hat and like cowgirl boots. But you know what? Like, if that person is going to help people connect with wine, like, who am I to judge why they're drinking wine or why they're not?
Airstreams too. People like that like Airstreams.
Well, I really like Airstreams.
We like Airstreams too. We had one parked here yesterday.
See? Like, I love, my kids like hang out in it and they make house while everybody else is,
that's awesome.
like drinking wine.
Lassiter's have an Airstream on their property.
Yeah, but it's gated.
Yeah.
Well, so do like 3 of the buildings on my street, and the one across the street had lights and the building next to me was falling down. Right. So I think I was, I did obviously have a special place in their heart. If that's what you mean.
It's called targeting.
Yeah.
So what point do they start really threatening?
They never, this was the weirdest part, is we would respond every time.
Yeah.
And I'd say, I would copy the director on the emails, and I would say, but Director Morrison, you said that we could sell people wine, that they could consume it on the property. He didn't respond ever. He would just send it to Napa Valley Vineyard.
Did you ever see him around town or at meetings or anything?
Well, they never came to the property.
Well,
until after they sued. So the first time that anyone set foot on the property, other than during the whole permit process, they decided to sue us in October of 2022, and the first time that they set foot on the property was December 11th of 2023.
So like over a year later.
Yeah, and it was probably just to give them some familiarity with the place that they were suing, because how were they going to authenticate any of the photos?
So did you get
never even been there?
Right? Did you get a cease and desist?
We did. So we got 2 notices of apparent violation. We got a cease and desist letter. And we responded to every single one of them. And ultimately, the only things that they brought up were essentially tours, tastings, and or marketing, which again, tours and tastings is defined, again, for legal nerds, 18.08620 of the Napa County Code. It says tours and tastings are tours and tastings.
Great definition.
Why did they send this stuff to the Napa Valley Vintners? Because the Napa Valley Vintners were gonna.
I don't know. That's
were you a member of the Napa Valley Vintners at the time?
At that time, no.
I mean, again, why send it to them?
And why not respond?
Yeah, why not respond?
If you actually want a solution, like, they're probably not the one to send it to. So that undid like an incredibly odd vortex of weird stuff that I'm still trying to work my way out. So I don't have a full answer of who's behind it, why they do it. They haven't gone after any other small winery exemption. I mean, they haven't gone after Harlan and Bond. They've never gone after quite a few others.
I mean, and the small wine, 30,000 gallons for those of you scoring at home is like 15,000 cases.
That's huge.
Well,
right?
So for the small winery exemptions, it was still only 20,000 gallons. So yeah, small. I mean, small.
8,000-9,000 cases, something like that.
And now with new wastewater standards, like state imposed wastewater standards, like, I mean, but, not to get, again, crazy. I mean, everyone knows that you have like a septic for domestic waste and you have a septic for
production
industrial waste. And I mean, so if you have a tank that can accommodate unlimited customers, I don't know that customers who come to buy wine, like, do they tax the infrastructure more than customers who drink the wine? My kids go to the bathroom, wine or no wine. Like, I don't, it's like every bathroom, it's like, I'm going to use that bathroom. I'm like, okay, like, please do. So I just don't know that there's, I mean, I don't even know what that means. They were like, I think there was a really great quote in the most recent motion, which was like, tastings might impact the aquifer. I'm like, how is a human consuming alcohol going to impact groundwater? Who are these? Like, that makes no sense.
Zero.
I mean, unless you like spit it, like unless the human is spitting it into the groundwater, and even then, like that would be an awful lot of contamination that we'd have to come up with. I was like, I don't even get it. I was like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But again, like this is the other thing. Of course, I really respect that I've been a business owner and a lawyer, because a lot of lawyers and a lot of politicians make a lot of laws about things they know nothing about.
Yeah.
And Napa, I think, is the worst for it because they don't have a single person anywhere in the planning department, on the board of supervisors, who's had any exposure to the wine industry. They did not know how to define wine production.
How's that possible?
They didn't know how to define what a 02 was. They didn't know how wine is made.
They didn't know what an 02 was?
No.
I don't understand how that's...
Because anybody who actually works in this business is too busy to run their office.
Right.
Nor would they want to. Although I think, it really begs the question of Sonoma is so much bigger than Napa. Napa is small. I mean, we are the
square miles. It's huge.
Well, but population, population and industry.
Right.
And that's important because Napa really only has the wine industry. Not only is it written into the zoning that is the only commercial enterprise that you can have in the ag preserve, which is most of the land. We don't have, we have a hospital. We used to, it's pretty small. So
probably the Vets Hall is the biggest employer after
huge,
right? After any wine business and
huge
government, right?
So if you have an industry that is so reliant on one industry, when I was in San Francisco, I used to call it kangaroo court too, except that you have a lot of very powerful interest groups and they're all different. And so in the end of the day, there's more likelihood to balance out perverse interests, right? Because you have real estate and tech and you have different races that all have meaningful power holdings, in the conversation. In Napa, you don't. The top 10 wealthiest people are the top 10 landowners, are the top 10 people who matter. And after that, there's a huge drop off, just like there is in population in California. We have 52 counties in California. Napa's actually in the smaller side.
Yep.
We're in the 30s. Sonoma's 7 times the size of Napa County. So, we have to really think through. I mean, if we start pissing on the wineries and putting them out of business, like, what are you going to do to keep people employed? They're already not living there.
Right.
Yep.
We closed the school in Yountville. We closed the hospital, the maternity ward in St. Helena. My son was supposed to go to Yountville school, and they closed it. There are 20 kids in Yountville. I represent 4 of them. I'm an overproducer. My son was the last kid born in the St. Helena maternity ward in 2019 because we don't have families. We don't have other.
Same thing here. When I was pregnant with my son, they had just shut down the maternity ward at Sonoma Hospital. And so I had the choice of either going to Napa or to Santa Rosa.
The Queen is great, don't get me wrong, but it's sad to see these communities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Die out in terms of, kids. That's who's going to repopulate the town, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's so much becomes secondary homes, right? Yeah. And that's part of both counties' problems.
Yeah, and it's a good problem to the extent that people want to be here.
Right.
Like we want And that's where I think this.
But they want to be here because of why?
Well, exactly. Well, that underscores all of it.
Right.
That underscores all of it. But what is interesting to me is there is room for the big guys and the little guys. And it's the little guys that help introduce wine to different groups of people. Right. And it's the little guys that live there and keep the heart and soul of the community. So they do different things and they have different roles. And it's important, just like biodiversity. It's like you need to have like some winery diversity going on everywhere.
Yeah.
And
And it's the little guys kind of toeing the line right now. I feel like in the industry, it's the people that are coming and wanting to drink wine aren't necessarily going to the larger places. They're
What was that article that just popped about Castello d'Amoroso went like 1,500 times over either visitors or water? I mean, talk about affecting the aquifer. Like, yeah, they're not towing the line. They're blowing right past it.
well, that's where. So this is where the irony of, power and horse trading come in, because the castle, and I should start this comment by saying, I think businesses, just like Costco, just like any of them, should see as many people as they can safely. Right. Period. We don't tell any business, you're only allowed 2 people. Well, what if I can't survive on 2 people? Well, you need to spend $2 million to sort that out. I mean, that is bizarre and totally unconstitutional, but yes. So if they can see that many people, but let's talk about orders of magnitude. They are allowed to see 400, or they have been seeing 425,000 people per year. We see in a year fewer people, and the county knows this, than they see in a day. How is that a problem? By any definition, I don't even understand. And we see them for all purposes because selling wine, whatever it is. I mean, delivery,
marketing, tasting, and tours.
Well, yeah, and or tours, yeah, which are defined as tours and or tastings are tours and tastings. Okay. Mind you, they're not prohibited in the code. Weddings are not prohibited in the code. A lot of the things that people have just sort of like.
So that whole, like, you can't have weddings except for 3 Napa wineries that are grandfathered in, is just a urban legend.
There's nothing in the code that mentions the word wedding. And I can tell you that Title 18 is 188 pages if printed. Nowhere. Wedding does not appear. I mean, but here's the irony, right? And this is where people, I think, are missing the mark. When the WDO came in and allegedly sought out to preserve agriculture, which is a very worthy objective, none of the proponents said, I'm going to give up weddings because I think they're bad for the community. They said, I'm going to keep them, but I don't want anyone else to do them going forward. That is a quintessential infrastructural monopoly. Right. And it was written in intentionally. I can't see it any other way at this point, because we are not saying that tastings are bad. We are not saying that visitors are bad. And if you think about it, if you consolidate 90% of all the visitation into one winery, that creates traffic that diversifying that visitorship does not create. Right. So all of these allegations, and we've also done studies that show that the traffic in Napa is not related to customers. It's related to employees that are commuting in and out because they don't live there. So all of these sort of hyperbolic justifications for winery regulations are actually unfounded in fact. And if you go and look at the database, I have documentation, one board agenda memo that I found that basically said, like, we have 0 standards for deciding visitation and marketing. We basically make it up, and we think that we should fix that. We have, versions of the database that have completely different entitlements for everyone. And it turns out that nobody ever recorded the entitlements for wineries. So until 2012. And then obviously by that point in time, they were going back to original source documents and making it up. Right? Whose document says I am allowed a wedding? We've just drunk the Kool-Aid that says like, well, they've always done it, so they're allowed to do it, but you're not allowed to do it. So it's not prohibited anywhere. Nothing says that they're allowed to do it. We've just all, it's like the, cult of, whatever they say. Right. And nobody's asked those questions. And I don't know, maybe asking questions got me dangerous close to exposing something. I have no idea.
Well, I'm glad you're asking them now.
Yeah, it's been terrible for our family. Really bad.
I'm sure.
And so
what exactly are they after you for right now? Because I've seen figures like in the newspaper, but what is it they're telling you right now? Like they want, how much money do they want from you?
Well, just like most things, it was made up violations, so it's made up money. Right. I mean, I couldn't even make sense of the request. And I'm, whatever, they might impose it. It's not factually based and it's not legally based, and you can't squeeze blood out of a turnip. So by all means, yeah.
Well, the last number I saw was 8 million or something, I think.
Yeah, but based on, that was my...
I don't know.
No one's been able to identify a statute.
Yeah.
So if you can't identify a statute, you surely can't identify how many times it happened. You don't even know what it is. Right. So that's my big problem.
Yeah.
I was like, so is it just being around? Is it like...
No, it sounds punitive.
Punching... Well, there's no... Okay, so...
Understatement of the show.
Yeah. Oh, really? It was actually... I looked hard and fast, and the only case that came close to that amount of an award under a, let's call it similar provision, was against Overstock for lying to people about the discount that they got. And they showed that for over 3 years, they'd basically been manipulating people into thinking they were getting a discount, and they weren't. And Overstock, is a publicly traded multi-billion-dollar company, and they fined them $6 million. So I'm going, so you're fining a small family winery how much for doing tastings that every other winery gets to do, on the theory that it's anti-competitive to the other wineries who are doing the same thing and have the same licenses? I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, and just to be clear, you guys don't have that money sitting in some vault somewhere.
The property itself isn't even worth that.
Right.
And Napa County, if that's going to be their prize, why did they devalue it and take away its entitlements? I don't know. I was like, that's dumb. I was like, at the very least, you could just give... Since you've never worked in the wine industry, now's your shot. Right. Take the property. Here are the keys. I offered keys many times. Could you imagine how bad that wine would be?
The government wine.
The G-Men.
Cheese. Government wine paired with government cheese.
I was like, I'll design your label.
I got an idea for it.
Oh, they're like,
no marketing
for free,
allowed,
lady. Work for free. Give us your children.
So while this is going on, you continuing to see people on the property?
Oh, well, no, we're allowed to see people because after the court shut us down, we petitioned to the Court of Appeal that we requested a temporary stay, and the court said you cannot shut them down. So right now we are fully operational. Yeah. I am marketing, touring, whatever that means.
Touring and/or tasting.
I don't know what they mean, so I guess I can't really say that I'm doing those things.
Right.
But
you're better off not.
Yeah. But we are. You can make an appointment. We've always been by appointment. And
it's not just wine on the property. You guys do have animals on the property, right?
Shh.
Well, don't complicate things, Brian. I don't think I'm
breaking a story.
I just don't want to be evidence at a court case here, Brian.
Not at all. Gosh, of course we have animals on the property. Last I checked, animals are defined as within agriculture.
Yes.
And we have only animals that you would... It's not like Tiger King. So it's like we only have, farm animals. Pigs, sheep, goats, donkey, chickens. Yeah. And we don't have a petting zoo.
Right.
The fence is 6 feet tall. And there are signs every 2 feet that say, do not feed the animals. Do not pet the animals. Since most of the people interested in the animals are less than 6 feet tall, i.e. children, they don't interact. And trust me, that's a liability issue / like, I don't want people touching the animals. My vision of animals is they should not be poked and prodded and harassed.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, that's the whole point, is that we created a sanctuary so that they can just live their merry life in a beautiful place. We adopted a police horse from San Francisco, and, he retired out and wanted to give him a good view. Yeah. So that was it. Yeah.
And what's traffic been like for you guys in terms of, like, how do you find that you're getting support from people because of what you're going through?
Oh gosh.
Or are there people that even know what's going on?
So to answer your question, the lawsuit's been very difficult for us because I feel like we're constantly opening, shutting. It's like COVID all over again.
Okay.
You're basically, are we open? Are we not open? And I think everyone in the wine industry can agree that it's hard enough to plan right now. And to have this layer of, I have no idea if, I don't know. I've tried to lead my team through a really odd time where, it's like, we might be closed August 25th. I'll see what the court says. And so, you don't want to put too much investment. It's hard to, I don't want to hire people to then just have to, like, let them go. So it's just it's difficult to operate a business on a good day, let alone with this much unnecessary, frankly, uncertainty. Yeah. So the answer is, I think, I don't have a great litmus test for what things could be. I know that 50% of the people I run into on a daily basis are like, I'm so sorry you're closed, which to me means people aren't looking. You have to rebuild those connections with the concierges and the drivers and whoever it is that recommend places. And, I think that a lot of the reporting has been so confused about what's going on and also whether we're open. So I think, you have haters always. The county's done a damn ardent job in shaming me and, slandering us. I mean, it's hilarious. Like, if you read the appellate brief, you'd think you were sitting in a different case. All of a sudden, they're like, their septic's falling apart and their tastings are, like, contaminating the aquifer. And I was like, whoa. Where did that come from?
And what photos on Instagram have you seen that show that?
The contamination.
Yeah. Right.
I was like, so it's propelled into this, like, I think that they're, CYA, they have to continue to justify the expenditures. I mean, they've spent over $3 million in the lawsuit. And so, just like any budgeter, they're probably saying, like, oh, well, we need to, I don't know. So
get some resolution. Yeah.
I don't know. You have to, like, the law of diminishing utility still applies to government. I know they're playing with someone else's money, i.e. yours. Yeah. And at some point, though, I mean, in Southern California, for example, there was this article about, they'd been opposing a development in a community because they didn't want, I can't remember which one it was. It was like La Cañada or something. And at some point, the city was just like, do we really want to spend all this money on something we might lose? Or can we look at this development and partner with them to come up with a better solution? And honestly, I believe, because I now know, that there are pretty much every winery asks, I don't really know what the regulations are. I'm just going to put my head down because I don't really want to get in trouble, but I don't really know what they are. That's weird. That's weird. I can't believe that so many people rely on this database that we've now shown changes year to year and inexplicably and by some ghost finger without an audit trail in the back room. Why would you ever buy a property and invest in that property if you didn't know whether or not what you think you bought was what you thought you bought, and if what you think you bought might just disappear because somebody in a back room is having a good old time and getting an email from a friend. Yeah. I mean, like, that is going to be a huge chilling effect on people's aptitude and willingness to come and invest in a community. This is not just winery. This is, if you have a house, it's the same thing. Like, oh, you thought you had a second story. was like, I do have a second story.
Right. I sleep in it every night.
You're going to have to take that down and reapply for it. Why? And in Humboldt, it was interesting. They did this because everyone there was off the grid, and they started doing the same thing where they'd take drones and go over everybody's property, and they'd be like, you have a greenhouse. You must be growing pot. And they were like, or tomatoes. Mm-hmm. And literally, they started going after people and finding them like $7 to $10 million, trying to find them $7 to $10 million. And the Ninth Circuit just came down and said, like, that's just excessive. Like, that is not commensurate with what you're trying to solve. Right. And it looks like a money grab. And I don't know where that case is going to go. It's United States versus Thomas, again, for those legal listeners who probably aren't out there. But,
can we get your LexisNexis login so we can look this stuff up afterward?
Yeah. I mean, I'm agnostic, Westlaw or Bloomberg, but yeah. Use them all because you need to learn how to use them all.
We have a customer who used to be I think actually she was a lawyer for LexisNexis.
Oh, cool. So they're very good at searching things.
We're partial around here.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, the long story short is that I know that, I can only speak on behalf of myself, but I would like to see a solution because if I die, if the business goes bankrupt, all that's very sad for me. I think it's really sad for the community ultimately, because what it means is that nothing has actually changed, and we need some solution, because I'm not the last victim, and they appear to want to continue to do this. They did it to the Bremer family, and they just ran them out of money. And I've never met the Bremer family, but I have read the entire case file. And that judge said, there's no way, Napa County, you're going to win this. And you know what they did? Double down. We got more money than you. And that's the government. And that is when the government has gone the wrong way.
Wow.
And that's my opinion. And so everyone can go read the file for themselves. You go to the court, you get the docket, you decide. You don't have to take my word for it. You can read all the pleadings in our case. I mean, I talk very openly about this. Why? So, Napa County responded and made their propaganda page on the website. So now I have a whole page on Napa County's website. I was like, what does that do? You want you've already made me look like whatever you wanted to make me look like in the public. However, there is an amazing amount of support, which is sad to me. It's bittersweet because there's an amazing amount of people who have been going through the same things, who are terrified by Napa County, but who are supportive and who pull me aside at every time I go anywhere and say, we're rooting for you. I wish that were translating to a larger voice, because the only way that anything ever gets changed is if Napa realizes that the population that is against what they're doing is actually much larger than they realize.
Right.
And unfortunately, if people are unwilling to come forward, then, it's not, right? Yeah. Because you have to be willing. So I think we've learned that you can't just let victims go to the wayside if you actually want to see change. It's a little bit like Aaron Brockovich,
Right. And you guys are continuing to make wine this entire time. You're not stopping getting things out there into the market. You're picking grapes. You're growing grapes. You're making wine.
Well, business has been hard. This has been straining our relationship with everybody. I think that people fall on two camps of I'm afraid of Napa, or I'm, are you going to be paying the county $8 million? Because then how are you going to pay me?
Right.
This is not like what I would put on my calling card for work with me.
Right.
So, I really respect and appreciate my team and the people who have continued to work with us are really doing it because they believe, but they're really good people.
Yeah. Shout out some of those people.
Everybody. My entire team had to go in and testify against me.
Yeah.
Because, they hadn't been to the property and didn't have a definition of tours and tasting. So they called my winery. This is my favorite. Is my poor employee, Livia McKinnon. She's probably going to shriek when she hears that. She's she's on the stand and they're like, and did you give them glasses? And she's like, yes.
Well, they weren't allowed to take them home.
I gave them glasses. And, of course, I'm like, just tell the truth. I'm they're either legal or not legal, but glasses, yeah. And she's like, what? I just didn't want anyone to have to drink out of the bottle? You know, like there was this like just genuine sort of honesty around. I was like, she's like, yeah, we give them glasses. It'd just be kind of weird. Yeah.
We were out of Dixie cups that day.
Yeah. Right. I was like, what? So anyway, you know, I mean, Aaron Pott, like Buckalter, everyone, all the grape growers, Julianne and Stu Smith from Smith Madrone. I mean, talk about bravery. I mean, I think that it's the right thing to do. And Summit Lake, frankly, you know, I don't think really from a legal analysis, like has a choice but to join that federal lawsuit. And the reason I championed it ahead was because I wanted people to say, like, I will walk the walk. I mean, I didn't need 2 lawsuits, by the way. That was, you know, me saying, like, you know, now it's time to push back for the community. We had town halls. We had a number of faces that you all know that are members of every board who were there and all wanted to join and then all walked away. But they're there. And, you know, I encourage them. I keep saying I won't out you, but it would be helpful. Money and or face, right? You know, all of it, right? Voices, money, face, calls, phone calls, behind the scene calls. I don't really care. But Smith Madrone, you know, Stu is just such an interesting pioneer. I remember I had an employee once and she was like, have you ever met Stu Smith? And I was like, you know, of course I've heard of their winery, but I've never actually met him. And she's like, you remind me of him. And I was like, that's a first. I've never been likened to a 70-year-old white male, but thank you. I mean, I'm sure that's cool. But what was so fascinating to me about it is like, I have learned so much from him and come to really appreciate him. But he wants to protect his business for the future generations, but he also is doing it because it's the right thing to do. And he, you know, thinks it would be cowardly to know that something's wrong and not come forward. And you just don't see that a lot. And Stu walks that walk. I mean, that man did his own felling of the property, 200 acres, lumbered it himself. Wow. And I just think that I wish and I hope that there are more people out there who care more almost about the industry and the legacy than they do about the short-term inconvenience. Yeah. And that's really what it is. And again, if we all of us, if we have an investment, we need to think about what that investment looks like prospectively. And this is the right thing to do now. If only that we've tried to sit at the table. If they'll come to the table, I will happily pull up a seat.
Yeah.
Right.
Happily. Right. I would love that. Because stop the BS. I've asked every board of supervisor to come out to the property. They've declined. They declined before and they declined after. Because they're in a lawsuit. I was like, well, you're going to be in many more if you don't come fix this. We can't kick the can. You have to fix. If the laws don't define these things that we want to regulate, you got to define them.
How often do they vote on Board of Supervisors?
Well, District 3 is up for re-election next year. And, you know, I think that the wine industry should put up a candidate that
knows what they're doing.
Well, that knows something about the wine industry or has the wine industry's best interest in mind.
Yeah.
Because District 3 and District 4 represent 90-something% of the wineries.
Wow.
So the other 3 are controlling votes that have no impact.
Right.
But District 3 and District 4 are...
so Napa County has 5 districts.
Correct.
Okay.
Supervisorial districts,
right.
Yes. So, you know, I think if people aren't willing to sit down and listen to the wine industry, like, you got to put somebody up there who will. Yeah. Because if they're going to put us one by one out of business, like, that's not an economic development plan. For me, for the county, maybe for a corporate entity.
Yeah.
I mean, it does make for cheap buy-ups, but
right.
So something's got to happen. And I don't know. That's the answer. You put somebody in there that makes better decisions. You speak up. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
So what's next for your case, or what's your hope? What's your light at the end of the tunnel?
So the light at the end of the tunnel is that I have felt like I'm in Alice in Wonderland for years. But you know that the Board of Supervisors can sit down any day and right this wrong.
Right.
And so I am eternally hopeful that people figure out what the right thing to do is and stop the madness and do what's best for the community. If we have to win it through the courts, I am every day more confident in my legal position. So, I mean, that's where it's just unfortunate and expensive and time consuming. And it's a big sacrifice for my family and for, you know, I mean, if I hadn't gone to law school, I literally like almost cry to my students all the time now. And the dean, my employer, he's like, I tell everybody, like, you have no idea what your law degree is going to be able to do. And it has saved my family, at least to this date.
Yeah.
I would have never survived day one. But Napa was not allowed to shut us down day one. And we've been able to keep it open by filing things that most people can't even pronounce, like writs of supersedious. Like, I was like,
I spell it, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was like, I never thought I'd revisit the, the Commerce Clause after I left law school. So it's been a tough journey, but get loud, get angry, and come together. We all need to come together.
And go taste Hoopes wines. They're really good.
What's this? We didn't even talk about the second wine.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Well, so that is the wine.
Right.
So I brought that one because I guess it's like the part of the story, right? It's the Oasis Red Blend. So when we purchased the property, Dieter Tedda, who is the German, owner, but also just sort of, he's very whimsical in a lot of ways. And he had interplanted, he had 6 different types of grapes of all different ages all over the property. And so I didn't really know what to do with it. 2017 was our first vintage. We didn't produce.
Yeah.
So I kind of said, I feel like we should try to see if we can do something with it the way that it is. Like sort of take this inspiration of, his whimsy and try to incorporate it in a wine that we feel represents us. So it's basically a quintessential field blend.
Quintessential Napa field
This
blend.
also feels like it's totally
Right.
in Aaron Pott's wheelhouse to take this random vineyard and make something delicious out of it.
Well, so we took out all the trellising and he retrained all of the vines, whatever age, into goblet vines.
Okay.
And he just felt like that, felt more authentic to the property. And it looks much better because since they were all different sizes and shapes and whatever, they really had no business being on trellises anyway. But it's really amazing to see how also our regenerative processes, because Aaron's very big into, organic and regenerative farming, but it also has to fit the place,
right.
And so I think that I like to call us California modified in that we're not, we listen to the space. And, I think that the vines show it. Like we've taken a vineyard that looked just
so raggedy.
terrible. I even pulled out 2 acres of vines and put in just a huge 2.5 acre garden. And we grow the produce there, and then we take it to the farm stand in Yountville and sell there. So we have a little farm stand in partnership with the town of Yountville.
Cool.
Which is fun. But that's really helped just the care, but also the biodiversity and, having everybody kind of hang out. That's why we call it the Oasis.
That's great.
Yeah.
Come one, come all.
And so if people want to come taste today, they can. You guys are doing tastings with glassware.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's a tasting. You can make an appointment. You can drink wine.
You come check it out. Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Whatever it
It
is.
is fully compliant with our O2 license.
Right.
Make an appointment and show up.
Okay.
And you'll
Just
be
don't pet the sheep.
Yeah.
Yes.
You'll be treated with delights.
And if people want to, where does most of the wine go? Is it wine club, direct to consumer? Is it in retail stores? Is it through distribution?
Well,
It's a hodgepodge.
I mean, most of it is sold on the premise through wine club. The SKUs that I have here are exclusively from the premise. We have the red blend. It's off of 5 acres, so it's just really small lots. And the wines that we pour at Oasis are really meant to be tailored and curated for that. We have one SKU that's national distribution, just to basically get eyeballs on the brand everywhere. But really, we're trying to refocus onto, the whole vision was to drive traffic back to us.
Right.
I'm a mother of 4, so being gone every week to sell my wine everywhere but Napa felt like A, stupid, B, like not helpful for my marriage or kids. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Or business, really.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to run a business. Everyone's like, we want you at the dinner. And I'm like, but how do I make the wine?
Right.
I mean, and Aaron makes the wine, but, it's hard to do it all.
Yeah.
But if people want to go on the website, they can actually purchase wine and have it sent to their home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hoopesvineyard.com. Some of those are paid actors, so like they're not tasting on the property.
Photos generated by AI. Don't worry.
Well, that's the scary thing, right? Is like, I'm like, I don't even believe 99% of what I see on the internet. Like, be very afraid.
Yeah.
Be very afraid.
Circumstantial. It's all circumstantial at best.
Well, it's hearsay.
Hearsay. There we go.
Yeah.
I only know about a lot of the stuff that I watch on television.
Right.
Yeah.
A statement offered for the truth.
And the wines are great, by the way. I mean,
Yeah.
Aaron's been on the show before. We know his
Aaron's
deal.
amazing.
He's
I
great.
mean, Aaron's so passionate.
And he collects vinyl.
Well, he's just, I mean, he's into so many cool things. He collects vinyl. He's a surfer.
Yeah.
He's, has fun with it. Like, that's what I think.
Wine's
so
fun.
Well, right?
Certainly trying to take all the fun out of it. And
That's what I-
Right. Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like, let's bring the fun back. Like, I want to have fun again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up and had fun, and I want my kids to have fun. I mean, we have a beautiful garden. We live in a beautiful place, and we can be a beautiful community again. Like, let's do that. Like, let's stop hating on each other.
Yeah.
Nothing says fun like playing house in an Airstream.
I mean,
Well,
dude,
people take tours and/or tastings all around.
Allegedly.
but is it a tour if you're in the Airstream?
Right.
If you hook it up to a truck, it could be a tour.
Is it a tour of the Airstream?
What if there's no wine?
Exactly.
I don't know.
It's definitely not a tasting.
Do you know who is with District 3 right now? Who is that person?
The district attorney in San Francisco.
No, the district board of supervisors for
Napa.
Yes, Ann Cottrell.
and control. Great. Okay.
Write her a
Yes,
letter.
so Ann Cottrell, yes, write letters, call. Only you can make a difference.
So just to be clear,
or support her opponent.
right, exactly.
Or that.
Has someone been announced who's running? Have people?
No, but I mean, if I have no job, maybe me.
I was
mean,
going
my
to say,
goodness.
Right.
have you any interest in taking on that role?
I to be honest, I don't
Yeah.
have interest to be on the board of supervisors, but I'm very frustrated with the way I think that they're misspending tax dollars. I'm very frustrated with the way that I think that they're killing the economy, really the economy that props up the entire valley. And since everything I own and my investment and my kids are there in school and are going to suffer the consequence of that, like I almost feel compelled to do it
Yeah.
if there are no changes.
Yeah.
So, on the one hand, I would say no, but I will if I have to. And,
Public
and if
service.
I have no job,
Yeah.
I mean, that's an easy choice.
Yeah.
There's not a lot going on in national politics right now. If any of you weekend warriors want to get on the internet and just drop a little line.
Well, we can't maybe we have a few years to sort out presidents,
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
but we can have more impact locally.
Totally, 100%.
All politics is local.
And to that point, I will say that Napa did just confess that they have no economic development position for the county of Napa. So, if anybody's looking to fill that role, I think that would be helpful because I think we need a plan.
We have this vision of Napa Valley being so grown up,
Right?
right?
Are. This is what happens. Newspapers got grown up too, right? This is exactly what happens is they think that they know it all.
Right,
The status quo benefits the status quo.
right.
And we don't we don't ask questions. We don't challenge what's working. Right. And that's exactly when we become complacent and these things happen. So keep up the fight.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing your story. Yeah.
No, well, thank you for hopefully enjoying it.
It's been awesome.
Yeah. I was riveted.
We're about selling wine. Sharing wine, drinking wine. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, and keeping people who love making wine in business, right?
Thank you.
For the right reasons.
Right.
You got anything going on at the... Fuck,
yeah.
I don't even want to do shout-outs for events that you may or may not and or allegedly have.
Well, we are having a Mini Bell's soul food pop-up at the Coop, which is the concession stand behind the baseball diamond, and we have DJ.
Hey, we didn't even talk about that part.
Yeah, why don't you explain that whole thing?
Yeah, so when the school went out of business or shut down, the town actually purchased the school, and they're trying to activate all of the buildings for community benefit. And so we took over the concession stand, and we are doing a Mini Bell's pop-up with DJ King Most. And you can come and get some of her amazing po' boy sandwiches. We have shrimp, beef, and oyster mushroom.
Okay.
With banana brulee pudding, add-on, and wine. And then we will have in the refrigerator all of our other items, but it is a special pop-up. And DJ King Most is coming to play some cool beats. And you can hang out on the baseball diamond. We have field games. So we have kickballs and that kind of thing if you want to play. We have frosé, so you can make slosh ball. And we... it's just a cool locals hangout and if you're from Yountville, you get 20% off all food. You get 50% off produce. And we have happy hour too, which means that you get 2-for-1 wines for everybody.
And when is this open?
We are open Tuesday through Sunday, 8:30 to 6 in the summer.
Okay.
And so on Saturday, our special is actually from 11 to 2.
Okay.
And we ask if you can to pre-order. So if you go to our website, you can pre-order. You don't have to, but.
And that's the Hoopes website?
It's the Hoopes Vineyard website, but it will tell you that it's food at the Coop.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the Coop is right behind Town Hall in Yountville in town.
Cool.
Awesome.
So yeah, come on, come on.
All right. Awesome. Good shout out.
Good shout out. I'm gonna go look at it.
Yeah, totally.
Now I'm gonna drive through Yountville and try to find it.
Those po' boys sound delicious.
As opposed to trying to avoid downtown Yountville traffic.
I find it
gets stuck in the Bouchon bakery line.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, yes, you can come get pastries too if you'd like to avoid the line.
That's why bikes are best in Yountville or in Napa. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck. Hopefully in a few months we can have a follow-up and there'll be some sort of
good news to report.
Champagne popping.
Yeah.
Hey, look, this is good news that there are literally people that want to listen. And if I can change anyone's mind about getting activated or engaged with the community, that's a win.
If people want to reach out to you, Lyndsay at hoopeswine.com,
hoopesvineyard.com,
hoopesvineyard.com,
or info at or orders at,
right.
We're small wineries, so they all come to me. They all come to me. My cell phone, I think, is probably everywhere. I'm not going to repeat it, but yeah.
Right, yeah, right. Sam, a successful trip to for the wedding.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if Maria listens. Hopefully she does. That was one of the best, probably the best wedding I've ever been to.
Wait, you were at my wedding.
I was at your wedding. Your wedding was great. It was really,
close second.
It was better than I told Alice. It was better than my wedding.
Danielle's was better than your wedding.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I learned how to sing "It's a Beautiful Day."
Oh. Yeah, lovely day.
Lovely day. I didn't learn that. Beautiful day. His U2, yours was way better than that.
Okay, so what is your karaoke song?
None. Just stand-up comedy is my karaoke song.
Toto's Africa.
Right.
Yeah, I'm Ring of Fire.
If I had to, maybe Friend of the Devil. I don't know. I karaoke Blair.
I mean, mine is You May Be Right by Billy Joel.
Ooh, good one.
Good one.
Yeah. What about yours?
Eternal Flame, the Bangles.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Good
call.
Old boarding school throwback.
Right.
Tiffany may come in there sometimes.
But yes, Spain was fantastic.
Great.
Every day in the sea as often as possible.
Yeah.
Kids had a great time. Fell in love with Sicily in 3 days. And can't wait to go back. Ate jamon 3 meals a day.
Right.
Which was almost enough. Yeah. But yeah, back almost over the jet lag. The 9 hour difference, I didn't even looking on my Google calendar and seeing that Brian was working in the tasting room from 10 a.m. to 3 in the morning. We did our best sales at between 2 and 3 for 2 weeks. It was bizarre.
I mean, I'd say you were missed around here, but I'm not really sure you were.
I don't do here anymore. I don't think I have a job. But maybe I'll run for Napa County supervisor. No, don't look at me.
What about maybe we could have a co-ticket? Why not?
All right, I'm down.
Right?
Okay, I made it. Let's talk off the air.
Sam keeps us all sane. That sounds crazy, I know, to some people that know Sam, maybe, but it's honestly because
It's a very low bar.
If you leave us alone to our own devices, we start going in all kinds of directions. And Sam is the one that always sort of calmly talks to you and refocuses you. So that's what was missing, especially.
Great.
Yeah.
The chief calming officer.
Yeah. There we go. Sometimes you need to get talked down off a ledge every once in a while.
It's a very important job. I was like, do you have a bat phone? Because I've got 4 kids.
Right.
I need a chief calming officer.
You can text me.
Sorry, did we get a shout outs or are we?
That's kind of what we're doing.
We're working on shout outs.
Cool.
Sorbet. That'd be the big one. Ooh. Blair, I think you might have been the first person to buy a ticket to Sorbet. So that's our Sonoma Organic Regenerative Biodynamic Educational Tasting and or tour.
Oh my God.
Marketing.
It's definitely marketing.
Is it shout out marketing? I think it's marketing.
My life is marketing. So those tickets are available.
I have a conflict on sorbet, unfortunately.
We're gonna
have to figure that out.
Pour for you or something.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Steve Waymar, Steve can maybe pour for you.
There's a couple options and something like that, but yeah.
What a dropping your kid off at college. What a cop out.
I'm not going to say that I didn't have alternative ideas, but they were pretty shot down pretty quickly.
You can imagine.
Pretty quickly.
It went over well.
Yeah.
You could or go to that or come home.
Exactly.
And then Stanley Mass Day tickets are available on our website, 16600.
Yeah,
website.
Now August 10th because everyone's going to be in Golden Gate Park.
60,000 of our customers. Yeah.
Maybe a little shout out to Luke's local market in San Francisco. They're currently carrying some wines, and they have one of their stores is right by the park, and so they want to do a little promotional thing with the 16600 cans leading up to the concert.
Easy to sneak into a concert, I've heard, and or tour. Anything else, Brian's?
Danielle, you got anything?
Wires.
No, nothing at this moment. Thank you.
Go to Jam de Bois Wine or Wines. I can never remember.
The website is jamdeboiswines.com. The Instagram is jamdebois wine.
Okay.
Right.
But I do want to make sure that everyone knows about DTC.
Oh, yeah.
So
doing our due diligence.
January 20th through the 22nd in Monterey. I believe the early bird pricing or whatever it was ended yesterday.
Snooze, you lose.
But I still encourage you to get tickets. Elaine Chuck and Brown, keynote speaker. And then, of course, it's going to be very educational. We will, I guess, be doing podcasting from the event again.
See how we do with these promotions if they invite us or not. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess there's so much going on this summer. But I think that's enough for now.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Things. Go to the website. Go to the
website.
Go to the Sonoma Valley Vintage Festival.
Sonoma Valley Vintage Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Sonoma Valley Vintage Festival. It's coming. Quickly. Sorry, I wasn't prepared for this. It'll be here next week
tours
too.
and/or tastings.
Well,
Tours
actually,
and/or
I have
tastings.
a really interesting update that
Wait.
breaking news. I know, right? So the Michigan, I don't know if everybody was aware, but there was a Michigan case with the same attorneys that we have in federal court handling exactly the same issues in Michigan.
And at a Michigan winery.
At Michigan wineries. Okay. So basically like a group of Michigan wineries sued, and they just won $50 million in damages.
Wow.
So
they can build a winery now. Or several.
I mean, I'd sit at a table. That's what I do. Way to go for them, because they face the same just junk of like, we're not going to talk. And it's like...
That's just so mind-boggling.
Okay. There you go.
All right.
Good sparkling wine coming out of the
We got
Michigan
lots
FYI.
of friends in Michigan wineries, and of course, Kelly, Cork in the Road.
Well, big shout out to Miller Canfield. If anybody's looking for alcohol compliance attorney, or any beer or distillery, Joe Infante of Miller Canfield and his team are so awesome, so inspirational, and so revolutionary, but like a family for me now, as much as lawyers can be. We like each other.
Right. In that sibling rivalry kind of way.
All right. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. This was so fun.
You're welcome over here in Sonoma.
I talked
anytime.
too much. I was like, yeah, maybe.
You're our favorite kind of guest.
Yes.
Right. Yes, exactly. You may move.
Make us look smarter somehow.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.